Sangitamu comrades, thank you for tuning into the Red Nation podcast today. Y'all got me, JT, on the mic today. This past Thursday, I had the opportunity to attend the event Forward Movement by Tewa Basin Collective and Jacob Johns. But first, let's take it back. It was the summer of 2020, and it was the thick of the Black Lives Matter movement. The echoes of the George Floyd uprisings had rippled onto Confederate monuments across the U.S. and naturally onto monuments of settler colonialism against the indigenous peoples of Turtle Island. On June 15th, there were two different actions against the same colonizer, Juan de Oñate. The majority of the Red Nation was present in Tewa territory in Rio Arriba County in AlKurd, New Mexico. By the time of our arrival, the motives of the action had switched from opposition to celebration as the statue was taken down, not because its owners and conquistador apologists thought to do so because it was the right thing to do, but to protect the statue, of course. Nonetheless, the statue came down and was to never come back up so long as the people could help it. From Tewa territory, we left in victory. In Tewa territory, it was a much different story. A crowd opposing the Oñate statue in front of the Albuquerque Museum of Art and History were being targeted by local white supremacist militias and vigilantes, one of them being Stephen Baca, who was armed and targeting and assaulting women in the crowd, one of whom who was thrown to the ground by him. As relative defenders moved to chase him off, and in an act of cowardice, he shot community protector Scott Williams 4 times. Scott's body twisted in such a perfect way that doctors said it was a miracle that he had lived. 3 years later, Oñate was resurrected by the Rio Arriba County Commissioners, Chairman Alex Naranjo and County Manager Jeremy Maestas, an action they were criticized for many reasons, one of which being the failure of gathering tribal consultation, consent, or dialogue. In September 2023, Rio Arriba County had announced that they were going to bring their conquistador back to life. On Thursday, September 28th, in a ceremony in front of the county building. The Monday before the set date, local organizers from both Spanish and indigenous communities gathered for a press conference at the county building to voice the people's opposition. It was there that it was decided that people were to show up and protest. In the days before, the people began what can be described as a prayer camp. By the time of Thursday, it became clear that the people had won, as there was no equipment or statue in sight. During the sunrise ceremony before the celebration began, Ryan Martinez showed up, along with others, in favor of the statue. But Martinez floated around the space, looking for vantage points and identifying cameras around the building. I asked him, "Who are you, and why are you here?" His ghostly cold stare forward still haunts me. When Jennifer Marley was speaking, Martinez made the attempt to jump the wall and charge through the crowd in our direction. It was then that relative and community defenders sprang into action, blocking him, but ultimately resulting in the shooting of Jacob Johns. Martinez made a second attempt at shooting Malaya Pacino, but the gun jammed, and he took off running to his Tesla and sped off. He was stopped by tribal police in Pewaukee Pueblo, and Ryan Martinez was charged with an attempt to commit a felony for first-degree murder and aggravated assault, and he is being prosecuted by the New Mexico District Attorney. His next hearing at the current moment is set for later this year. Denise Williams, mother of Scott Williams, called the New Mexico Governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, and other various levels and representatives of local government to warn them of the high possibility of gun violence. Scott's father called Michelle Lujan Grisham after the shooting to let her know that she had blood on her hands. To this day, Michelle Lujan Grisham has never commented or condemned the shooting. The day after the shooting, Scott Williams said, "I spent most of my night awake, weeping, praying, hurting, being so very full of rage. If there's anything I ever ask of you, please hold up Jacob like you held me up." It is no coincidence that both Ryan Martinez and Stephen Baca were Trump supporters. It is no coincidence that both shootings were at statues of the same colonizer. And it is no coincidence that both relative defenders had lived. The settler state knows that indigenous people are a threat. The settlers who defend the settler state and cling to its revisionist histories know that our existence as Indigenous peoples will always pose contradiction and truth to history. The things we want as Indigenous people are right and just for all. That day, we were armed only with our prayers, and through those prayers, miracles happened. 10 days after the shooting was the beginning of the Al Aqsa flood and Israeli aggression on Palestine. I also believe it was no coincidence that Muhammad AlKurd was there and spoke just minutes before the shooting. He said, I am so disgusted by the people here who have nothing better to do, whose lives are so empty that they have nothing better to do than to celebrate the legacy of a murderous war criminal. Life could be so much better. You could build a much better legacy. You could wash your hands of this blood. We didn't have much time in between things to process the shooting and turned our focus to Palestinian relatives. Just a month and change later, the Red Nation spoke in Washington, D.C. at the First National March for Palestine. On July 11th, 2024, the newly formed Tewa Basin Collective hosted Jacob Johns in Santa Fe for the art gallery opening Forward Movement. The Tewa Basin Collective formed in the months following the shooting, and this was their first event. Jacob Johns said in a statement on Instagram, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to everyone at the Tewa Basin Collective for helping bring the opening of Forward Movement to life. This exhibit is more than just an artistic expression. It's a space for community healing and a platform for addressing the trauma inflicted by right-wing fascists. Your unwavering support and collaboration have made it possible to blend Indigenous and contemporary artistic expressions, creating a sanctuary where we can explore themes of resilience, decolonization, and environmental activism together. Through this exhibit, we aim to provide a space where community can vent, share, and heal from the profound impacts of violence and injustice. I hope our collective efforts invite viewers to engage deeply with the struggles and triumphs of Indigenous communities, recognizing the vital interconnectedness of cultural preservation and ecological sustainability. Thank you for helping to inspire collective action and solidarity, and for encouraging audiences to envision a future rooted in respect, equity, and harmony with nature. And that it did. I have such a weight lifted off of me. Although it is not all of it, the space provided exactly as intended. So thank you and kuntawaha to the organizers and Jacob Johns. I had the honor of interviewing Jacob and reconnecting with him for the first time since the shooting. It was a profound experience for me to talk to him after having gone through such events. Please enjoy this interview, and if you enjoy this interview, please support the Red Nation podcast on Patreon, where you can get access to bonus episodes and other goodies. And please support the mission of Jacob Johns. Power to those in struggle, and liberation to those under occupation and incarceration. Free Palestine, free Leonard Peltier. Love and solidarity, comrades. Okay, there you go. All right. So, thank you so much for getting us an interview, Jacob. Can you tell us, our listeners, about today's event and what's happening right here, right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we wanted to have a sense of healing, some way to come together, bring the community together around what happened on September 28th. And, the what happened was really about it, ripping open a scab that was intergenerational. It came from their great great grandfathers, and when they witnessed that violence, it just brought that back up from their ancestors. And being in that space, I think, really fucked up a lot of people. I mean, watching it was really more traumatic to them than it was for me to experience the pain that I had to endure. And so we had to find a way to sort of find closure and be able to move past it. The idea of the whole theme of the art show is forward movement, which is the way that we need to go in order for us to step away from these awful, awful histories that surround us. And so we wanted to have a way to bring the community together, but also to, let everybody know, hey, I made it. I'm back. I'm here. And, despite what happened on September 28th, that everybody should take it as a win, because the Onyate statue still is not standing, and people should be celebrating that versus just feeling sorry for anyone who was, painful. I think it was really important for us to find closure and for everybody to understand that what happened was just oppressive systems dying, and that we represent the new world that we're all trying to create, and that's threatening to those oppressive systems and those people who are in power in those systems.
Thank you, Jacob. Well, I will say that the healing aspect of your mission tonight is definitely achieved. I actually, the skirt I'm wearing right now was the skirt that I was wearing that day. Same thing with my earrings. I haven't worn them since, and I've had complicated feelings about them hanging in my closet, hanging in my jewelry box, because of just the traumatic memories associated with them. And I just want to move on. I was there, my comrades were there, and that day of the shooting was actually the last day that I had seen you. So when I saw you earlier, it was very emotional for those listening and who weren't there, but it was a very emotional moment for me, because I had realized that I actually hadn't seen you since you were wheeled off into the ambulance. And so being in this space, being surrounded by prayer and dance and songs has just been an experience. It's been transforming. And I just thank you and I applaud you. And I just am so happy that I actually drove here from Acoma to be here. Yeah. And I came straight over here, and I got here just as I just feel so blessed to be here, because I actually have forgot. I saw the event was coming up, and then I don't know, I got busy in my week and forgot. But actually what I had saw earlier was a picture of you with this painting. And at first I was like, oh, that man looks so familiar. And I realized that I kind of just maybe blocked that memory out of him. And I was like, oh, I know who that is. I know when that moment's from. So would you like to talk about this and seeing you next to this picture on Instagram, and then me just being like, oh, I gotta be there. Like, it was a very powerful image. And so I can only imagine your artistic process to create this. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, the pain that I had, the physical pain I had to endure, was beyond anything that I would wish upon any person. I don't think that anybody should have to endure that. And it was awful. And, this person made the wrong choices. And it's ridiculous that we live in a world where people can be manipulated into thinking these ways, especially by oppressive systems. And it's shameful to see society, so divided or appearing to be divided. And when you look at this, when I saw the picture of him crying after his bail was denied, it just made me feel sick. It was like alligator tears, these crocodile tears, these things where it's just fake pain in order to gain sympathy for something that you've done that was wrong. And it was like a poison in my mind, thinking about his face, thinking about what happened, thinking about all of these things that fester inside of us. And it's like getting a pimple under your skin, and you could feel it bubbling up, you could feel it, and eventually it's gonna have to pop. But you gotta get it out, otherwise it's poison in your body. And so this is the way that I was able to pop the pimple, and I was able to get the gross out of my heart and put it out of the ether into physical reality. And, there's similarities in the way that I painted him by dripping his face off, making him feel like kind of gross and slimy and sloppy. You can see over here with their former president's mugshot with 34 felonies, that it's painted similarly, because this is, representing this dying system that is in its death rattles. And being able to get this out of my body and out of my mind was very, very important. But I also wanted the community to be able to do whatever they wanted, to express themselves on this canvas, and to feel free to do so in a way that was as healing and as purging as painting this image was. And so, we've got this on a time lapse. So whatever happens here, we'll be able to come back and watch it happen over a video, and I can share that with y'all. And I don't know, this is the first night, and so people really wrote a lot of things on here, and we'll see what happens as the show progresses.
Wow. I was so despite this being, or despite the picture of you in front of this being so powerful, I had complicated emotions about it, just because I'm just like I hate his face, and I was I was conflicted about sharing it like on my personal social media and about triggering people. I was thinking on the drive over, I was thinking what if I share it but I like black out the eyes or something, and I was like, oh, but then that's like censoring art and I don't know if I want to do that. But then I got here and I was just absolutely delighted to see a table of Sharpies right next to it, and you made it a piece for the community, and you gave us a space to really just get some of that out. Like, I feel like I'm a part of this, actually am now, because I contributed the X's over the I's that I had thought. And then also the Pueblo Revolt lives forever, 1680. There's a couple more that are really nice. You came with a gun. We only had our prayers to protect us, and our prayers did protect us that day. And you know, we witnessed a tragedy and a miracle that day, and you were that miracle that day. And you know, the next time after the shooting that I had saw you was actually on the Democracy Now! Interview, where you were in Dubai for the COP 23 COP 28 conference, and that was amazing. Like, you literally died on the way to the hospital in the helicopter. I didn't know that until that interview. And then how many months after the shooting was COP?
I was in the hospital for 2 months, and I went to COP 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. Just props to you, man. How has your healing journey come so far?
I mean, it was brutal. I had drains in my abdomen, two in my pancreas and one in my liver, for 6 months. And so when I got released out of the hospital, I had these drains that I had to have, and I had 2 weeks before I had to go to Dubai. And so I just sucked it up and went, man. And, you know, there was a medicine man who came to see me in the hospital, and he told me that what I needed to do was to stop taking all of the pain medication that they were giving me. And they were giving me a lot, you know, morphine and Oxycontin. You know, it was a lot of narcotics that they were giving me. For obvious reasons, I had staples up and down my entire abdomen, on top of the drains coming out of my abdomen. And he told me that I needed to stop taking the pain meds and start shifting it in my mind from it being a painful thing, a sad, painful experience that you're still enduring and going through, and shift it in your mind to think of it as being a positive thing that you need to celebrate. And as soon as you're able to do that, he tells me, then I will become the warrior that the world needs. And I'm like, fuck, dude, like I got, look, you see these tubes sticking out of me? Like, these are all staples, and my body was allergic to it was like awful. Like, you could feel, it was all that you could imagine it was.
I can only imagine.
Well, I knew that he was right, and so I started taking. I knew also you can't take narcotics into the UAE, right? The Emiratis don't like that, So it was do it or don't. And I had a lot of things that happened. I lost my spleen. And that was really, it puts you into a shock. I lost a lot of my hair, it fell out, it made me anemic. I had to do all kinds of stuff, taking like a lot of supplements in order to maintain health. But the insides slowly but surely started to heal. That was, physically, it's really done. I have some gaps in my abdominal wall that's not sealed anymore. So it creates like this major hernia on my stomach, which sucks because I try to take care of myself, This isn't a beer belly. Yeah. But being healed up, man, it's nice. It's really helped me focus on doing more work. This is really hard to to just give up on the future of humanity if we are facing such a catastrophic event coming right to our doorstep, and we have to do something. And yeah, it sucks I got shot, but like the work needs to continue, and we need to fight for a future that's healthy, just, and livable. And we need to do that with all the weapons that we have and all the creative avenues that haven't been invented yet. And we need to be that light and really emanate the future that is coming forth. So, really focusing on that and shifting my mind from feeling that awful, awful pain, and to be like, but you're alive, you're here. And they told me on the other side that it was going to be painful anyway, so I had to remember that was one of the things I agreed to. So coming back in really was, it was painful, but also like, I'm here. I was worried about coming back. Didn't work out so well for me last time.
I can only imagine. Even going, I'm from Santa Clara Pueblo, and even going back to Espanola sometimes it'll get me. And but wow, that is an amazing journey that you have gone on, and to see your resilience, it's empowering, and it's medicine, honestly. Can you tell us about the court hearings and how the court case is moving forward with Ryan Martinez, and how you're involved at this point?
I'm just, they just keep moving the court date back. I don't know what they have planned. It's not, regardless of what I say or think, the DA is going to move forward with whatever. And, I hope justice is served. I hope that, the hate crimes enhancement stick. I hope that, that justice is served. And more importantly, this person has time to think about the choices that he's made, and that he can walk away from this bad path and walk away from these crazy delusional thoughts of the world and what is reality. I hope that this person can come back to society and be able to contribute in a positive way. So, prayers and blessings to everyone who was afflicted by this heinous act. But, regardless of the oppressors trying to destroy people, we still are resilient, and we still continue to move forward. And, you can't hold us down. We have each other, and the strength that you see in me is the strength that everyone sees in you. We must recognize and support each other, and create new communities born out of the pain. The pain of the oyster becomes the pearl, and that's what this is meant to be, is this new pearl that is being birthed out of pain. Because as the old world dies, a new one is created, and we need to shift our minds from the destructive chaos of oppressive forces and focus it on creating something new, and new paradigms that make these old systems obsolete. And we need to do it in all the ways, and be in all the places, and more importantly, get the poison out, and put the poison out of your body where it needs to go. Send it back to where it came from.
Wow. Your feelings toward Ryan Martinez, the man who shot you, are like surprisingly, but not surprisingly, extremely similar to how Scott's feelings toward his shooter are. So at the first Oñate shooting and the first Oñate shooting victim, the words that you just said are like eerily similar to about what he had said about I can't remember his name on the top of my head right now, but the last shooter. But wow, that is just kind of profound, and I think it just goes to show the I guess like resilience and humility that our water, land, and relative defenders have. And so wow, that's something to witness for me personally. The art exhibit moving forward. I mean, first of all, it's beautiful. I actually had no idea that you were this talented of an artist. I'll probably clip in some B-roll into our interview so people can see your artwork. But it's amazing. Is a lot of this like recent, or have you been doing this for a long time?
I mean, I've been doing art for a while, but environmental organizing doesn't pay you money. It's survival money. Maybe not even that. But there's other things that I do. Uh, I do a lot of video work. I do social media campaigns. I work for political action committees sometimes, and I do a wide variety of things to help cover bills. But painting is one of my passions. I really like to do creative things that are there's a video installation back there as well. We do 3D projection mapping, all these different things. But I've been doing art and had a studio in Spokane that is one of my supporters. I'm a community supported organizer, which means that I'm like a solo nonprofit group that does intersectional organizing internationally and nationally. And one of my supporters who contributes monthly to my cost of living owns some buildings, and so she's given me a studio that I've been working out of for the past 7 years, and it's just like been transformative, from painting in your living room to like a large studio space that you're in and out of at any point in time. It really helps. So a lot of this stuff is new, but some of it's old as well. And I did a lot of paintings of things that were poison in my brain, especially after witnessing the images. I painted myself after I was shot. And one of the things I love about that painting is that so many people have their hand on my chest trying to keep me alive. And that itself is the beauty that is born out of pain, that so many hands were focused on the intention of one thing, and that one thing became reality. And this is the power that I think we have, that born out of that pain became a new paradigm that is making oppressive systems obsolete.
Yeah, no, that painting, I'll definitely take a picture of it. It's very powerful, and I see it. It's right behind us. It's just off frame. And I was there, like I feel like I'm just maybe like just a few feet right outside of that painting. It is so just surreal to see, but thank you for explaining that and letting me know that that's what that process is. That's like fascinating. I'm trying to think where to move forward from here. I mean, not just in this interview, but I mean in my organizing, in my personal life, in my own community. And I'm certain that that's, obviously that is what you're also doing. So to wrap up this interview, can you just maybe just tell us about how you're going to move forward and what's next, or ideas, or anything you want to tell to the people?
Yeah, I mean that my work continues. We were in the middle of a 3-year grant to take a delegation of indigenous wisdom keepers and activists from around the world to different meetings underneath the umbrella of the UNFCCC. So a group of our organizers just came back from Bonn. I was over there for 2 weeks as we were gathering intel on the policy and what's going to be negotiated at the Conference of the Parties. And then we bring that information back to our delegation, explaining to them, and then co-create contemporary climate policy that builds consensus around the group. And then we translate that policy into platforms that we advance underneath the umbrella of the UNFCCC. So we'll be at the Conference of the Parties doing a lot of speaking events, but more importantly, engaging with our negotiators from all the various countries so that we're all speaking in unison and having a global shift versus just trying to go after, one oppressive system after another from a domestic perspective, that we need to step away from that idea that we're separate from each other. The time for small steps has passed. Like, we need to take a giant quantum leap globally together in order for us to prevent the impending climate collapse. And so we are on our way to Baku, Azerbaijan, for COP29, and it's a big lift to really contain and respond to all of the negotiating tracks that are being discussed at the COP. So that's a big lift, and that's the main focus for this entire year.
Amazing. You know what? There's one question I actually forgot to ask you, because I feel like something that was like an element of the entire thing. I was just and he was telling us about how pretty much immediately after the shooting, they just jumped back into their work. And something that was kind of really just, I don't even know what word to use about this, but just 10 days after the shooting was the beginning of the Al-Aqsa flood, and then the Israeli aggression on Palestine. what was going through your head during that time when obviously you're healing and going through the thick of it and the worst of it at the time, but I guess when you were conscious again, or when you were able to grasp the news again, what was that like with that sort of just huge thing happening immediately after?
I mean, I think as Indigenous people here in the U.S. and in North America, that we understand what the reservation system was born out of. That what we call reservations are open air prisons that we weren't allowed to leave. And the government, the oppressive systems that came in, the colonized settlers that came in, were the ones who prevented us from eating and leaving those places, and prevented food, or gave us smallpox and gave us all the diseases, rancid food, and all the things that were taking place that happened here. They gave the ideas for Hitler to do the same thing to the Jews, but in mass. And that system itself is somehow being reduplicated by these oppressive systems. It's like, the oppressed become the oppressive, and this disgusting switch. And that itself, I think, is just awful to witness. And we all understand what colonization and settler colonialism does, and more importantly, what that impact has on the climate of the world. The environmental climate, but also the political climate. That I think it's so incredibly shameful that our government is funding this genocide, and that's the shame. What Israel is doing is directly resulted from what's happening here in the U.S. That our finances are contributing to that genocide. And it's important for us to, as American citizens, to prevent those wrongs from happening again. It's happening right in front of our eyes. If we could go back in time and prevent all of the things that happen to Indigenous people, 100% we would. But we have that opportunity right now. And I think colonized people around the world understand that. So you look at Scotland, you look at Ireland, you look at these other countries that stand so very strongly. Look at South Africa as how they stand up for Palestine. And that's what we are. We are this voice that is trying to be exploited and extracted from. And we understand that pain, we understand solidarity. So it's sad, but it's also, we have something to do about that, because it's our government that's contributing and giving weapons to Israel and all of Israel's supporters.
Absolutely. And something I'll always remember about that day and the day of the shooting was the fact that Muhammad AlKurd was there, a world famous Palestinian journalist. And the first thing that he did that day of the shooting was he gathered the children and got them out of the way and took them down the hill to safety. And just that, I'm saying that just to say that the indigenous Palestinian solidarity has absolutely been happening. I mean, even before October, and I'm just saying because since October, that's when it became a part of a lot of people's radars. But I just find it so, just what a coincidence that he was there that day and in solidarity with us.
Hello, everyone. It's such an honor to be here. I'm really grateful that I could be a participant in this. I hadn't really prepared, but I wrote some words down. First of all, my name is Muhammad AlKurd. I grew up in a city called Jerusalem. It's occupied. I was born and raised in occupied Palestine. My life, my family's life, my grandparents' life have been marked by land theft, by military occupation, by colonialism, and by conquest. A conquest that continues to this day. So being here today, I identify so much with this. I identify with the indigenous people's struggle for sovereignty and freedom and control and the right to take care of their land and resources. Being here today on this stolen, occupied land where people suffer less and less access to resources and water and land and so on, it is incumbent upon us to reject any celebration of colonialism, let alone a celebration of the legacy of a murderous, bloodthirsty war criminal like Aniote. I am, honestly, above everything else, I'm not good at speaking at rallies, but I have to say something. I am so disgusted by the people here who have nothing better to do, whose lives are so empty that they have nothing better to do than to celebrate the legacy of a murderous war criminal. Life could be so much better. You could build a much better legacy. You could wash your hands of this blood.
Yeah.
And yet you decide to do this. Not only should these statues come down, but all land must be given back. Land must be given back to its nurturers, to its caretakers, to its rightful owners. I want to say that I believe from Turtle Island to Palestine, occupation is a crime. Thank you.
Yeah. So, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up this interview?
No, I mean, I think that we have the idea of indigenous solidarity and understanding each other and being in community. I had to paint it down. You know, I had to get it out. I did a painting here.
It's beautiful.
Talking around indigenous solidarity. We also have one of our organizers, Aya, from Wisdom Keeper delegation, who is Palestinian and lives in Dubai. We were recently in Bonn, Germany for the subsidiary body meetings of the UNFCCC, and we were participating in a action outside of the UN campus. And she picked up this sign, and I took this picture of her, and showing the relationship between war and the climate, but more importantly, colonization and capitalism, and how that effect has been on the world. You know, I think it's a really, really powerful to see such solidarity amongst indigenous people globally, and you know that we are this. We are the eagle. We are the condor coming together, and that's a beautiful thing that we're witnessing right now. And despite the death threats and the attempts on life, we're still here. We're still thriving, and more importantly, we are blossoming into the beautiful beings that the world so desperately needs.
Beautiful. Thank you. Is there anything you would like to plug for our listeners? Where to follow your work, where to help you out, where to contribute?
Yeah, you can follow the project A Wisdom Keepers Delegation at A Wisdom Keepers Delegation on Instagram. You can also check out awisdomkeepersdelegation.org. If you want to contribute financially to my cost of living as a community supported organizer, you can check out thebackbonecampaign.com/Jacob, and you can contribute a one-time donation or a monthly contribution.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your bravery, your sacrifice, your strength, and your medicine. It's been amazing to be here tonight. Thank you so much, Jacob.
Yeah, I should also plug my Instagram, which is studio_1_11. And, all of the videos that we shot tonight, we're going to put in there. And you can also follow a lot of these cross posts that are going to be on my own personal participation.
Absolutely, yes. Please follow Jacob. Please support this work. This is a relative defender who is just the downest in history. Thank you for coming to my lands and protecting me. Kuntawaha. Tawa.